Well, state lawmakers are preparing for next year's bonding session by touring local projects in need of funding.
Today, those lawmakers stopped in Mankato. Aaron Stuvey has more.
Nearly 2 months have passed since a bonding bill was passed by the state legislature, sending $700 million to projects around the state. There is still more to do, however, as there are more projects hoping to receive state funding. One of those projects is an air traffic control tower at the Mankato Regional Airport that has been in the works for over 2 years. The $25 million project is currently on hold as it awaits funding. $24 million for federal FAA grants and a crucial $1.2 million from state bonding.
A lot of the funding that we will receive from the FAA requires a local match, and so we hope our state partners will be able to help the city with that local match. So what we're asking for is 5% of the total project.
That funding will require the support of local lawmakers, and Wednesday gave those lawmakers the opportunity to tour the airport and learn more about the project. This visit was specifically for state senators, as part of their bonding tour that also saw them visit places like Gorman Park and St. Peter. The House of Representatives will take a similar tour in October. The tour not only allows legislators the chance to see the project firsthand, but for local leaders, the chance to champion a project in their district.
Each senator on the bonding committee's job is to promote their district and the state and the projects in it. So for this, which is a bill I'm the chief author of, I want to make sure the other members of the committee understand why this tower is so important and understand the ratio of funding.
In Mankato, Aaron Stuvey, KUYC News Now.
Senator Carlin Nelson of Rochester accompanied another group with the Senate Capital Investment Committee. That tour made stops in Dodge and Olmsted counties today.